The boy who loved me most in the whole world is dead. His name was Ian Jiang, a police officer who was stabbed 7 times by a wealthy heir while saving a girl from domestic violence. Afterward, the girl tearfully claimed Ian had harassed her, leading her boyfriend to stab him. The murderer was acquitted, relying on a psychiatric report to avoid punishment. Looking at their faces, I suddenly laughed. A psychiatric report. Huh, what a coincidence. I have one too. Ian Jiang is dead. When the nurse told me the news, she watched my face cautiously, but I showed no expression, just fiddled with the doll in my hand. What does that mean? She said it meant Ian would never come to see me again. I paused, then smiled and said, "That's good." I've long been tired of Ian. I hated how handsome he looked in his police uniform, making my sickly appearance seem even uglier. I hated how he always cooked delicious meals, making me gain weight, and I hated how he'd hold his guitar and sing off key songs for me. It's better if he never comes again. Someone like me, a mental patient, shouldn't be loved by anyone. On the days Ian Jiang didn't visit, I ate alone, listened to music alone, took walks alone, but for some reason, my chest always ached terribly, so much that I couldn't sleep at all. So late at night, I climbed into the director's office. He was busy kissing a nurse and got a huge fright, but I didn't care. I pointed to my heart and said, "I'm in agony. Fix me now." After hearing my symptoms, the director sighed and said, "Let me take you to see Ian Jiang one last time." Ian Jiang lay in a small room at the funeral home. He was the most handsome person I'd ever seen. The school heartthrob back in our student days, with girls posting his photos on the confession wall every day. But now, he didn't look quite as good. His arms and legs were broken, like snapped off branches. His face was covered in bruises, and his chest was sunken in. The staff on duty were whispering in the next room. How tragic. That police officer wasn't even on duty at the time. He was just passing by when he encountered that heir assaulting his girlfriend. Everyone else was too afraid to intervene, but Officer Jiang rushed forward anyway. And in the end, he was the one who died. What a shame. I heard he was going to the mall to buy a wedding ring. When they took him to the hospital, he was clinging to his last breath, repeatedly calling out a name. Sounded like Ting Ting or something. "It's Claire," I said in my heart. Ian Jiang was the one who helped me choose this name. He said he hoped my future would be free of storms, always filled with sunshine. I don't know why, but my heart started aching again. I nudged Ian Jiang. "Hey, I don't like this name anymore. Help me think of a new one." He kept his eyes closed, ignoring me. I kissed his lips again. So cold. No response. So this is what death feels like. Suddenly, I let out a hysterical scream and began slamming my head violently against the wall. The staff next door were terrified. They wanted to rush in, but my heart-wrenching cries froze them in their tracks. By the time they finally mustered the courage to push open the door, I was already gone, 2 kilometers away, at a private hospital. I stood in the shadows of the corridor, quietly watching the direction of the hospital room. The girl staying there was named Sophia Gu. If it weren't for protecting her, Ian Jiang wouldn't have been stabbed 7 times by the crazed assailant. At this moment, Sophia Gu was weeping before a group of reporters. I really didn't mean to. We were just fooling around. That police officer went too far. He pretended to break up the fight, but was actually taking the chance to grope me. I told him to stop, but he only got worse. So I'm sorry, truly sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone. He just loves me too much. Sophia Gu's testimony was soon corroborated by multiple people claiming to be eyewitnesses. That police officer really did take the chance to grab the young girl's hand and even touched her chest. Sigh. We were all stunned at the time. Who would have thought a police officer would do something like that? The police officer must have thrown the first punch. The other guy only pulled the knife after being driven to desperation. I saw it clearly. No mistake about it. People were initially skeptical of the girl's account, but with a witness now, it became far more credible. And as luck would have it, the surveillance camera at the scene was broken. Public outrage instantly flared. How convenient that the camera just happened to be broken. I bet the police are too ashamed to release the footage. Must be embarrassing for you all to have such scum within your ranks. Huh? I turned off my phone and lay down on the bed. My mind drifted to the day Ian Jong changed his college application to the police academy. Under the sunlight, the boy in a white shirt looked at me with solemn determination. Claire, justice has always been absent in your life. So, I want to try becoming that justice. What a fool he was. Always giving his all. Trying to reform a mad woman like me into a warm, happy, normal person. Looking back now, it's a good thing he never succeeded. I smiled at the photo of Ian Jong. I took off the patient gown, tossed it into the trash, and walked out of the hospital room. Outside the door was an overwhelming expanse of night. Perfect. They extinguished the only light in my life. But they didn't know. Darkness is where I thrive. I crawled into the director's office. He and the nurse were shamelessly making out under the cover of night. I flipped on the light and stared at them expressionlessly. The nurse shrieked, and the director frantically covered himself with a blanket. You're insane? I found it absurd. If I weren't crazy, why would I be in a mental hospital? I sat down in the leather chair at the center of the office and propped my legs on the desk. Get me a new identity. The director raged. What are you trying to do? Ordering me around. Are you rebelling? I reached out and pulled open the blinds. Outside was a DV camera, its recording light blinking red. It was a gift from Ian Jong with his first month's salary, crisp and clear even in the dark. I'd left it outside when I climbed in through the window. The movies in the multipurpose hall have been so boring lately. I waved the DV. How about I show everyone this instead? The director's chubby cheeks trembled. What identity do you want? I pondered for a moment, then looked at the nurse. What was your name again? Among dozens of nurses here, I remembered hers sounded the most beautiful. The nurse trembled. Chloe Chow. Lovely name, I said. That's the one. Chloe Chow. With 6 years of nursing experience at South City Mental Health Center, with this identity, I stood before Zane Liu. Thanks to that psychiatric report, he had evaded criminal responsibility. The cost was spending a few months in the mental institution to lay low. The moment Zane Liu saw me, he smirked. A pretty new toy. I like it. Before me, Zane had already driven away over a dozen caregivers through torment. One was found drenched in blood and remains in the ICU to this day. Thus, despite the high salary, no one dared tend to this violent madman anymore. But I was different. I said softly, I'm not here to be a toy. Before the words had even faded, a glass cup smashed straight into my head. Shards flew everywhere, and blood immediately streamed down from my forehead. Zane Liu leaned crookedly against the bed, watching me with a smile. He was waiting for my reaction. Previous caregivers had either screamed, broken down, or raged in anger, but I did none of those. I simply stuck out my tongue and licked the blood that had trickled to the corner of my mouth. Zane Liu's smile vanished. His world had once been full of sheep, but now, a wolf had finally met another wolf in the wilderness. Must be quite a novel experience, right? Step by step, I walked toward Zane Liu, sat down, and gazed intently into his eyes. Do you really enjoy watching others in pain? I asked softly. It's the psychological mechanism of a sadist. Watching others suffer brings them intense pleasure. Too bad. I feel no pain. Hurting me is useless. No sense of pain, Zane Liu murmured. Don't believe me? I picked up a glass ashtray and placed it in Zane Liu's hand. If you don't believe me, you can try again. Glass items are not permitted in psychiatric hospitals. But Zane Liu, the only son of Shengming Corporation's chairman, naturally stands above all rules. Holding the ashtray, he stared into my eyes without moving. My gaze was utterly calm, like undisturbed water. One cannot gain satisfaction from repeatedly striking still water. This left him utterly disinterested. But it's all right. I can help you find amusement. Looking into Zane Liu's eyes, I said softly, though I feel no pain. If you wish to witness suffering, I still have a way to show you. I have a pair of very unusual eyes. Ordinary people would be frightened by them, but the mad are drawn to them. See, Zane Liu. He's already captivated. Gazing into my eyes, Zane Liu instinctively asked, What way? Look there. I pointed to the front right. There was a mirror there, reflecting our figures. The instant Zane Lu looked over, I tightened my grip on his hand. Then I smashed the ashtray hard against his head. While Zane was being resuscitated, Sophia Gu was outside the ward, kicking and hitting me like a madwoman. She stomped me with her pointed high heels, hit my head with her bag, and slapped me with hands adorned with sharp acrylic nails. I stayed silent until Zane walked out. His head was wrapped in gauze, his face pale from blood loss. Seeing Zane, Sophia immediately abandoned me and rushed forward, heartbroken. Zane, are you all right? Zane didn't speak. His gaze went past Sophia and settled on me. My face was covered in wounds, yet my expression remained calm. Looking up at him, I said softly, "Do you understand now? Making others suffer won't quench your thirst. The one you truly want to punish is yourself." Before the words even faded, Sophia had already charged forward and kicked me fiercely. I was kicked to my knees, my posture utterly wretched, yet my eyes remained fixed unblinkingly on Zane Lu. Sophia Gu didn't notice my gaze. She clung to Zane Lu, her eyes reddening with heartache as she looked at his wound. "Zane, you suffered so much. I won't let anyone hurt you again. I've hired an expensive caregiver from the US." Pulled along by Sophia Gu, Zane Lu headed toward the hospital room, but I could feel it. His gaze never left me. Sophia Gu wouldn't allow the hospital to fire me. I had hurt her beloved Zane Lu. Being dismissed was far too light a punishment. Make her clean the toilets. All dozen or so restrooms in the entire hospital became my responsibility. Sophia Gu would even bring people to dump entire buckets of paint on the floors I had just cleaned. "Here, wipe it up." The paint dried quickly. Impossible to clean. She ordered someone to press my head to the floor. "Can't clean it, then lick it." The pungent smell of paint fumes stung my nose. My eyes instantly reddened. "Ian Jiang, I'm so happy. Before this, do you know how terrified I was? I was afraid Sophia Gu was only after money, or the status of being Mrs. Lu. If that were the case, any amount of revenge would just be a pointless, trivial game. But now I know, Sophia Gu truly loves Zane Lu, loves him enough to forgive him again and again, to endure violence and pain without leaving him, to make him her entire world. This is perfect. Taking away someone's entire world brings me more joy than killing them ever could. Sophia Gu didn't realize my reddened eyes were from excitement. She thought I had finally cracked under the torment. Smugly crouching down, she poked my forehead with her sharp nails. "Let me tell you, if Zane weren't still in the hospital and I wasn't mindful of public opinion, wanting to avoid more trouble, your punishment would be far worse than this." Sophia Gu left with her entourage in tow. I lay on the bathroom floor, laughing soundlessly. Poor Sophia Gu. She's a normal person. Only normal people talk about considering public opinion. In a mad person's dictionary, there's only I want, I don't care, and I get. I got up, admiring Sophia Gu's beautiful retreating figure. A normal woman, so deeply in love with a man like Zane Lu. She's absolutely doomed. Sophia Gu had no idea she was doomed. She happily kept Zane Lu company. They strolled hand in hand through the small garden, looking as perfectly matched as the leads in a romantic drama. But Sophia Gu couldn't spend all her time at the psychiatric hospital. She still had to manage Zane Lu's companies on the outside. On days when Sophia Gu wasn't around, Zane Lu was cared for by highly paid nurses. They were like Sophia Gu's hands and eyes, tending to Zane Lu and watching him too. Keep an eye on him to prevent harm, ensure he cooperates with treatment, and maintains a proper routine. Sophia Gu wanted Zane Lu to get better so desperately that she didn't realize such efforts would backfire. Sure enough, just a week later, the caged beast was unleashed. Zane Lu broke the ribs of a caregiver who forced him to exercise, threatening to report to Sophia Gu if he refused. As doctors rushed the caregiver to emergency care, they panicked and shouted, "Quick, notify Miss Gu." "Who dares?" Zane Lu kicked the door violently. Silence fell. The doctors exchanged uneasy glances, all at a loss for what to do. Zane Lu stared at the bloodstains on the floor. He said, "Isn't Chloe Chow still here? Let her take care of me." I returned to Zane Lu's side. Tacitly, he said little, and I asked few questions, but I could feel that, around me, Zane Lu's condition noticeably improved. In front of Sophia Gu and the caregivers she sent, he had to act like a normal person, listening to normal music, watching normal movies. But with me, Zane Lu could freely be himself. He used the projector to play videos he bought with U.S. dollars from the dark web. They contained all sorts of blood-soaked, horrifying scenes beyond imagination. Even the most experienced doctors were too terrified to approach. Only I sat beside him, munching on a bag of chips, watching along. Countless nights passed like this, and through this subtle companionship, Zane Lu seemed to gradually grow closer to me. He would snatch chips from my bag. He'd ask for my opinion when choosing what to watch. Afterward, he'd discuss his thoughts with me. Finally, on a perfectly ordinary night, Zane Lu suddenly said, "These are all boring. Do you want to see me as the main character?" He looked at me like a child eager to show off his favorite toy, but I held the remote, utterly uninterested. "You as the main character? Please, here, I want to watch this." The Chainsaw Maniac. Zane Lu snatched the remote from me. He said, "Just you wait." A tiny USB drive was retrieved from the jade pendant hanging over his heart, which Zane plugged into the computer. The next second, Ian Zhang's face appeared on the massive projector screen. So that's how it was. I stared blankly at the screen. No wonder Ian Zhang, a professionally trained police officer, died at the hands of a mere heir like Zane Lu. It wasn't just because Zane had a knife. He also had over a dozen accomplices. And no wonder, by the time Ian died, there wasn't a single intact bone left in his body. It wasn't just violence in the heat of the moment. It was torture, driven murder, done for pleasure. After being stabbed so many times, Ian wasn't actually dead yet. He lay on the ground, a blood-soaked hand clutching a small box. One of Zane's lackeys picked up the box and handed it to him. Zane opened the lid, revealing a diamond ring nestled on soft velvet. The ring setting was custom-made, shaped like a rose. Roses are my favorite flower, and Ian Zhang planted so many of them in the garden just for me. Zane Lu held the ring up to the camera, sneering. I thought it was some treasure, but it turns out to be worthless trash. Not even a carat. Ian Zhang's hand strained weakly toward Zane Lu. He had no strength left. It was a miracle he was still conscious after losing so much blood. Yet, he struggled, reaching out for that tiny rose-shaped ring. "Want it? Come and get it." Zane Lu smirked arrogantly and tossed the ring far away. The final scene of the video showed Ian Zhang dragging his broken body, crawling inch by inch toward the ring. A long trail of blood stretched out behind him. "So, this is how it was, Ian Zhang. So, this was the path you took, in the end, to reach me." The video finished playing. Zane Lu looked at me and raised an eyebrow. Well, I stared at the screen in silence for a long time. He patted me. "I'm asking you, what do you think? Isn't it fascinating?" I turned my eyes and fixed them on him. Zane Lu was startled by my gaze, and just as his expression shifted, I broke into a cheerful smile. Yes, far more intriguing than I ever imagined. After the video finished playing, Zane Lu swiftly tucked the USB drive back into his jade pendant. Then he placed the pendant inside the safe. I smiled lazily. "What's this? Afraid I'll watch it again?" He smiled back, meeting my eyes. "You can watch it as many times as you like. I just worry you might take it to the police." My smile vanished. Rising to my feet, I looked at Zane Lu. "If you don't trust me, there's no need to share your secrets with me," I murmured softly. "I don't care for them at all." Turning to leave the room, I glanced back at Zane Lu. Believe it or not, I would never betray you to the police. Under Zane Lu's suddenly guilt-stricken gaze, I turned and walked away. I hadn't lied to him. I will never hand him over to the police. Gathering evidence, legal convictions, careful sentencing, those are things normal people like Ian Zhang would do. A madwoman like me would never give Zane Lu such a good deal. In any case, after watching that video of Ian Zhang, Zane Lu truly saw me as an ally and began opening up to me. He told me that before being recognized by the Lu family, he had always been an illegitimate child forced to live in the shadows. His mother, consumed by the pain of being abandoned by his father, gradually lost her sanity. Back then, Zane was only 5 or 6 years old. Sometimes, his mother would abandon him on the streets, leaving him to cry helplessly in confusion. Other times, she would push him into swimming pools and watch him choke and struggle in the water. She would sob over and over, saying, "Why don't you just die? If it weren't for you, your father would never have abandoned us." Young Zane was in agony, with no idea how to cope with such pain. So, he started by killing birds, then moved on to torturing cats, and eventually progressed to beating up other children. Only by seeing others suffer as much as him would he feel slightly better. Later, "I couldn't control myself anymore," he said. "I clearly love my girlfriend, but I couldn't help wanting to torment her." What about Ian Jeong? At that moment, I couldn't help wanting to ask, was it also beyond your control when you treated him that way? But I didn't ask. I just stroked Zane Lu's head like I would a misbehaving puppy. "I understand. It's okay. Your father abandoned you. Your mother abandoned you. But I won't. No matter what you become, good or bad, I'll stay by your side. Because you're my caregiver." Zane Lu buried his face in my palm. "No." I shook my head gently. "Because I'm your kind." That day, Zane Lu fell asleep leaning against me. Before this, he hadn't experienced the feeling of drifting into sleep without medication in a long time. Perhaps it was because I made him feel safe. A monster, after walking a long and lonely road, finally encountered another monster who could completely understand him. But I brushed my hand lingeringly over Zane Lu's brows and eyes. Monsters, they devour their own kind. You know, Zane Lu was originally supposed to stay here for at least 3 months. But plans never keep up with changes. Sophia Gu pulled some strings outside and managed to get Zane Lu an early discharge from the hospital. She even happily prepared a party to celebrate the occasion. Of course, all that joy shattered the moment she laid eyes on me. Sophia Gu pointed at me, losing control of her emotions. "Zane, why did you bring her? Have you forgotten how you got that scar on your forehead?" As she spoke, she couldn't help but push me. "How dare you show your face here? Get out. Get out right now." Her sharp nails were about to scratch my face. Zane Lu grabbed her hand. "Ruru, listen to me. That matter is in the past now. Miss Chow has been a great help to me lately." In truth, Zane Lu was using his gentlest tone. He was grateful to Sophia Gu. She had indeed given too much for him during this time. Yet Sophia Gu simply wouldn't listen. She stared blankly at Zane Lu, gripping her hand. Zane Lu used so much force that he left red marks on Sophia Gu's wrist. He had struck her before, but never treated her like this because of another woman. Sophia Gu couldn't hold back her tears as she cried out, "What kind of friend? Have you fallen for someone else? Fine, just great. I shouldn't have helped you. Wouldn't it be better if you stayed in the mental hospital with her forever?" Sophia Gu slammed her bag hard against me, then ran out sobbing. The friends around cautiously tried to persuade Zane Lu. "Brother Lu, go after her quick. You've really hurt your wife's feelings. How much has she sacrificed for you? All this time, she's been worrying about your troubles while managing the company, even falling ill without time to visit a hospital." Zane Lu gazed in the direction Sophia Gu had fled. For a fleeting moment, a trace of remorse flickered in his eyes. I sadly realized that, fellow mental patients though we were, Zane was far better off than me. Aside from his uncontrollable violence, he was nearly normal in every other aspect. He possessed ordinary emotions, understood what love meant, and could be moved by another's sincere devotion. Not like me, Ian Jeong had given so much, yet my heart remained a barren wasteland, unable to offer him anything in return. That day, Zane ultimately did not chase after her. He held feelings for Sophia Gu, and guilt as well. Yet, inevitably, there was also a heavy burden. Sophia longed for normal love. Around her, Zane had to suppress his violence and exhaust his patience to barely play the part of a passable boyfriend. But with me, he could shed all pretense. The darker, the better. The filthier, the better. I took it all in stride. A week passed. Just as I felt Zane Lu's favor was tipping toward me, Sophia Gu, who'd been giving Zane the cold shoulder, posted on her social media feed. The post featured an ultrasound report and a signed abortion consent form. Zayn was driving when he saw the update. His eyes instantly reddened. He slammed on the brakes, snatched his phone, and called Sophia. "How dare you?" Muffled sobs came from the other end. Sophia choked back tears. I ran out of the operating room. I couldn't bear to lose our baby. Zayn let out a long, shaky sigh of relief. Before he could fully savor this reclaimed joy, Sophia spoke again. "I love our baby, so I don't want another woman near its father." Zayn's fingers clenched, knuckles turning white. What does a violent madman despise most? Being threatened. Threats would only further fuel his violent urges. Yet Zayn Lu couldn't refuse this threat right now. He cared about that child. How absurd. A complete scumbag, still obsessed with passing on his rotten genes. Watching the veins bulge on Zayn's forehead, I laughed, leaning closer to the phone. I whispered softly, "No problem, Miss Gu. I promise I won't appear near Mr. Lu again." After speaking, I unbuckled my seatbelt and pushed the car door open to step out. I returned to South City Mental Health Center. The roses in the garden were in full bloom, all planted by Ian Jiang himself. The last time he visited me, Ian said, "Claire, when the roses bloom again, I'll take you away from here." Back then, I fiddled with the little bear plush in my hands, ignoring him and not responding. I didn't want to leave, and I didn't trust him. A promising young police officer, marrying a murderer who's a mental patient. A sheer fantasy. Ian Jiang didn't say much. He just told me, "Claire, believe me, I will come back to you with the ring." His expression was too serious and too certain. It made me start to wonder, if he really came, should I go with him? Now, it seems, all that hesitation was completely unnecessary. He didn't come, and he will never come again. With no one by my side, I could only lie in the rose garden, watching the sun rise and the moon set. News alerts on my phone told me that Zayn Lu and Sophia Gu were getting married. They held an engagement banquet, took wedding photos, traveled the world, and at every destination, Zayn Lu proposed to Sophia Gu again. The comments section was filled with people gushing over their love story. Zayn Lu handsome and wealthy, Sophia Gu gentle and sweet. A perfect match, made in heaven. No one remembers Ian Jiang anymore. Human memory is so fleeting, and what little coverage remained online was gradually erased by the Lu family. But Ian Jiang, why do I still remember you? Perhaps it's because I found you so utterly annoying. I closed my eyes, warm liquid seeping from their corners. I just kept crying and crying, crying until someone stopped in front of me. He asked softly, "Does it hurt that much?" It was Zayn Lu. I opened my eyes and looked at him. He didn't look well, though dressed in the most expensive suit. Even his cufflinks were massive diamonds. His face was sickly thin, his eyes bloodshot. I knew it. All these days, Zayn had been striving to be the perfect fiancé in Sophia Gu's eyes. But the more perfect he became, the more oppressed he felt. The more oppressed, the more he would miss me. I knew he would come. I just didn't expect him to see me, eyes brimming with tears. At such a coincidental moment, Zayn had never seen my tears before. As one of my kind, he understood all too well how precious the tears of a cold-blooded madman could be, as if he had found some rare treasure. Zayn pulled me tightly into his embrace. He was utterly satisfied. So I too was suffering from this separation. So I too missed him just as much as he missed me. Zayn Lu brought me back to a home, not the one he shared with Sophia Gu, but another property he owned in the southern part of the city. "Wait for me here," he said. "I'll come back to see you as soon as I can." I nearly laughed out loud. See that? Ian Jiang, this greedy madman, actually wants to have it both ways. The sane version of him wants Sophia Gu as his wife. The dark version of him wants me as his mistress. For a moment, I was tempted to pick up the blue and white porcelain vase on the table and smash it over his head, but that would have been letting him off too easily. Gently tracing the patterns on the vase with my fingers, I turned to look at Zayn and said, "All right, I'll wait for you." Those words felt so familiar, as if I had rehearsed them 1,000 times in my heart, ready to spill out at any moment. But I had never actually said them before. My gaze fell upon the rose in the vase, and my mind suddenly roared with realization. So, this is how it was. It turns out these were the words I had always wanted to say to Ian Jong, but never did. Claire, believe me, I will come to you with the ring. All right, I'll wait for you. In the days that followed, I sat attentively in the courtyard every day, waiting for Zane Liu. The rainy season arrived in the city as expected, with torrential downpours. I didn't go back inside. I just kept sitting in the courtyard waiting. And soon the heavy rain soaked me completely. I had never been caught in the rain, but Ian had, many times. He was so clumsy. He couldn't even hold an umbrella properly, always tilting it toward me. Every time we strolled back from the garden, half of his body would be drenched. I scolded him, "Get a bigger umbrella." He pouted, "This is already the biggest one." I sighed helplessly, "Then bring 2 smaller ones." He refused, "But I want to share one with you." So utterly foolish. Somehow, thinking of this, I found myself smiling alone in the pouring rain. "What are you smiling about?" It was Zane Liu, holding a black umbrella. He wrapped his arms around my drenched self, his heart aching. I lifted my face, smiling at him. "I'm happy to see you finally came looking for me." Zane Liu stared at my smiling face, then suddenly hurled the umbrella in his hand at me. The raised ribs of the umbrella scraped across my cheek, and blood immediately trickled down, mingling with the rain. I didn't move an inch. Zane closed his eyes, his voice breaking. "You chew. Don't do this. I'm a rotten person. Rotten to the core." I touched the blood streaking down my face. "Hey, Zay, are you trying to drive me away like this?" Zane shut his eyes tightly. This was a madman's final test of love, using violence to confirm devotion. Whoever endured his brutality and still refused to leave him was the one who truly loved him. I understood him perfectly, because I was just the same. The day Ian Jiang said he liked me, I chased him away, locked the door, and never let him in again. He stood in the garden, sometimes playing the piano, sometimes placing a beautiful bouquet of daisies on my windowsill. Even on stormy days, he remained outside, with the caregivers urging him to leave. He said, "No, you don't understand Claire. She's actually extremely timid and terrified of thunderstorms." I was furious, kicking and hitting him while screaming every vile insult I could muster, telling him to get out. He finally seemed truly heartbroken, turning his back to me. In that moment, I closed my eyes because something hot was welling up behind my eyelids, and I feared opening them would let it spill over. But the instant my eyes shut, Ian Jiang pulled me into an embrace. Ian said, "Claire, I understand. I know what you're afraid of. Don't be scared. I won't leave. I'll never leave you." And now, in this moment, I held Zane Liu. "I understand." I choked out. "I know what you're afraid of. Don't be scared. I won't leave. I'll never leave you." The rain poured down in torrential sheets. Suddenly, Zane Liu held me tightly against him. Warm drops fell against my neck. It took me a long moment to realize they were Zane's tears. This was the first time Zane had ever cried in front of me. That was the moment he completely fell in love with me. Rain poured down as I stared blankly ahead. "Ian Jiang, if I gave others just 1/10 of the kindness you've shown me, I could make even a madman love me wholeheartedly. But you were so good to me. Yet I never loved you." When Sophia Gu discovered my presence again and threw a fit, Zane Liu became colder than ever before. He said, "Sophia, let's call off the engagement." Sophia Gu looked at him in disbelief. "Zane, are you abandoning our child?" Zane Liu rubbed his temples wearily. "Are you going to keep up this act?" The ultrasound report was fake. Actually, the first time I saw that social media feed in Zane's car, I knew it had to be fabricated. As Zane Liu's caregiver, no one understood his daily medication regimen better than I did. With slight adjustments to dosages and certain combinations, I could create some intriguing little effects on his body. For instance, making it absolutely impossible for him to have children. But I didn't expose Sophia Gu. I wanted her to steal, to gloat, to revel fiercely in her happiness, only to then plunge into the hell I had prepared for her. Just like this time, no matter how Sophia Gu cried, made a scene, or even starved and harmed herself, Zane Lu showed not a trace of sympathy. He resolutely called off the engagement. Then, he announced he would marry me. A huge scandal erupted in the court of public opinion, with many calling Zane Lu a heartless scumbag and me a shameless homewrecker. Unfortunately, as two mentally ill individuals, Zane Lu and I were utterly unfazed by it all. On the day Zane Lu and I got engaged, Sophia Gu showed up at the wedding venue. She stood on the rooftop, begging Zane Lu to come see her. I can't live without your love. If you marry someone else, I'd rather jump from here. In the past, this tactic always worked because Zane Lu still had feelings for her. But now, those feelings had dried up completely. Zane Lu was someone who detested being threatened most of all. He stood below, arms wide open, flashing a thoroughly unhinged smile. Come on, Sophia, jump if you must. I'll catch you. Seeing Sophia Gu hesitate for a long time without jumping, Zane Lu wore an I knew it expression, then turned and walked away. The next second, a heavy thud echoed from behind, followed by dead silence, then countless screams. Zane Lu froze. He turned his head mechanically. Sophia Gu lay on the ground like a tattered rag doll. I stood beside Zane Lu, wiping blood splattered across my face. I was innocent. Sophia fell on her own. I didn't push her. I just loosened the rooftop railing in advance. That day, Lu Corporation's stock price plummeted. Zane Lu's father flew into a rage, hurling stacks of documents at his face. Zane Lu stood motionless, head bowed. Then he lifted his gaze and asked, "How long will the wedding be postponed? Are you insane? You're still thinking about holding a wedding?" I promised you, Chu," Zane Lu said softly. "I'm going to marry her. See how much he loves me." As if he'd give up the whole world just to have me. That day, the Lu family argued for a long time internally, but ultimately compromised. However, with so many incidents happening recently, the wedding shouldn't be too extravagant. So it was finally decided to host a small banquet at the Lu family's private club, inviting only close friends and relatives. On the wedding day, I was getting ready in the dressing room. The screen in front of me live streamed the situation in the front hall. I watched the guests toasting and congratulating Zane Lu. Perfect. Every single one of them. This one is Zane Lu's father, who spent a fortune to bribe the witnesses. This one is Zane Lu's aunt, who used her social skills to pull strings and ensure the surveillance footage from that day conveniently malfunctioned. Those few are Zane Lu's cousins, who acted as his accomplices during that frenzy targeting Ian Zhong. How wonderful. They all came, not a single one missing. Every guest at this wedding banquet is far from innocent. I smiled brightly at my reflection in the mirror. Zane Lu entered at that moment. He looked at me and said, "You Chu, are you ready?" Without meeting his gaze, I asked softly, "Do I look beautiful?" Zane Lu thought I was asking about the wedding dress. He replied gently, "Of course you do." I smiled and raised the photo frame in my hand. "I think so too." The photo was of Ian Zhong, in his police uniform, with sharp brows and bright eyes, sunlight dancing across his smile. Truly, he looked incredibly handsome. Zane Lu froze. His gaze fell on my hand, on the ring shaped like a rose on my ring finger. Engraved on it were the letters, Igrico. I dug through the trash for ages before finally finding this. Zane Lu began to tremble, finally understanding. "You Chu, you." He couldn't finish that sentence, because I had already grabbed the bronze vase in front of me and smashed it against his head, just like the first time we met, when he picked up a glass and threw it at me. But this time, it was our final meeting. Karma comes full circle. If only life could remain as it was at first sight. I smiled and locked the door from the inside, sat down, and turned on the video. On the large screen in the wedding venue, Zane Lu's bloodied face appeared, and behind him sat a smiling me. The bride and groom making an appearance in such a manner must have seemed truly bizarre. I watched as the guests began to stir in unrest. Then, Zane's aunt was the first to notice Ian Zhong's memorial portrait beside me. She let out a piercing scream, pushing Zane's father. "Something's wrong. Run. Get out of here." Too late. The hall doors had long been locked from the inside. I had all the servers withdrawn, helping me with the live online broadcast. I said. Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Claire Jiang. My name is Claire Jiang. Jiang isn't my parents' surname. I don't know what theirs was, because before I could form memories, they'd already sold me to a 40-year-old man. That man was a doctor. On the surface, the doctor was my adoptive father. In secret, he called me his lover. If I showed even a hint of disobedience, he'd strap me to the electroshock therapy chair. Repeated shocks destroyed my nerves. I began to not know pain, not know fear, nor did I know love. All the emotions normal people have, I lost them. The doctor was very pleased. Only like this would I never leave him. But then I met Ian Jiang. He was my neighbor and also my classmate. At school, because of my odd personality, I was always bullied. Only Ian Jiang was willing to play with me. He was also the first to notice something wrong with my relationship with my adoptive father. He tried more than once to break into my house, but my adoptive father's precautions were too thorough. So Ian Jiang began gathering clues, reaching out to our homeroom teacher, contacting journalists, and writing letters to TV stations. That day, my foster father was drunk, clutching a liquor bottle as he muttered by the table. Got to find a way to get rid of him. That Jiang family brat. How did I not see he'd be so much trouble back then? He closed his eyes, took a swig, and set the bottle down on the table. When he reached for the bottle again, he found it was gone. My foster father opened his eyes. In the reflection of the grimy glass, he saw me standing behind him, holding the bottle high. Once, then again, blood splattered across the glass. That was the first time I killed someone. Because I was diagnosed with a mental illness, I wasn't held criminally responsible. I was admitted to Nanchang Psychiatric Hospital, a very remote place where all I could see from my room was a desolate little courtyard. Then one day, a splash of red appeared there. I rubbed my eyes, realizing I wasn't seeing things. It was a cluster of roses. The boy planting the roses looked up and smiled at me. He said, "Let's choose a new name for you, Claire. From now on, may your life be free of storms, always sunny." He handed me a copy of the Book of Family Names. Pick a new surname too, whichever you think sounds the best. Annoyed by his persistence, I waved my hand. No need to pick. Jiang, I'll take Jiang. And so I became Claire Jiang. Ian Jiang is my only family. The explosion in the auditorium came from the dust device I had prepared. Flames roared skyward, and the cameras captured agonized screams. I gripped Zane Lu's chin, forcing him to look into the mirror before us. Then I picked up the bronze vase and struck him, blow after blow, his knees, his elbows, every joint. Each time Zane Lu passed out, I calmly retrieved adrenaline from the makeup case and injected him. Finally, he looked at me, lips trembling, hand straining to reach toward me. Truly a madman. Even at this moment, he stubbornly gazed at me. "Did you ever love me?" Perhaps it was his final surge of life. Blood, flecked foam gushed from Zane Lu's mouth. He said, "You were willing to become family with me, willing to wait for me to come home. You grieved when I was sad, rejoiced when I was happy. How could you possibly have never loved me?" I stood frozen in place. The bronze vial slipped from my hand, hitting the ground with a heavy thud. I reached out, grasping Zane Lu. "Are you saying, this is what love is?" Infinite hope dawned in Zane Lu's eyes. He believed, after all, that I had loved him. To die for love, for a madman. It wasn't the worst ending. I stared blankly ahead. Then tears began to fall like rain. Ian Jiang, Ian Jiang. I sobbed uncontrollably. "So, this is love, all along. I've always loved you." Amid my weeping, the last glimmer of hope faded from Zane Lu's eyes. Listening to me repeat Ian Jiang's name again and again in endless agony, he slowly ceased breathing. I walked out of the dressing room and made my way to the rooftop. The sound of police cars echoed through the valley. They had seen the live broadcast and were racing toward this mountain estate. I stood on the rooftop, the mountain wind howling past my face, with raging flames burning fiercely below my feet, just like a blooming rose garden. I took off that ring. It was his promise to me. Ian Jiang loves Claire Jiang for all eternity. I thought about throwing it into the sea of fire, but in the end, I couldn't bring myself to do it. In the end, I gently dropped it into the outlet of the rooftop fountain. The ring sank with a soft splash. 1,000 feet deep. It would drift with the water, flow through the city's underground water system, into the river, and out to the ocean. Diamonds are forever. Perhaps centuries later, someone might find it, though by then, the 2 letters representing our names would long be rusted beyond recognition, like all unknown loves with no ending. The wind lifted the hem of my wedding dress, and just before the police officers rushed up, I leaped down into the sea of fire. Perhaps it wasn't a sea of fire. It was my very own rose garden. In the rose garden, I hugged my teddy bear, lost in quiet thought. Ian Jiang stood outside, waving to me. Claire, when the roses bloom next time, I'll take you away from here. This time, I didn't fidget with my bear or refuse to answer him, nor did I say to him, "Okay, I'll wait for you." I stood up and began to run. My skirt brushed against the roses, my hair lifted by the wind. I threw myself forward, wrapping my arms tightly around my beloved. "No, I want to leave with you right now."